Namaste. Welcome to our new series, Capsule Psychoanalysis. Here we are offering small capsules of knowledge in the area of psychoanalysis. Our first series is Indian Spirituality and Sigmund Freud. This topic is divided into three capsules. The first capsule focuses on philosophy, where we understand the relation between Indian spirituality and Sigmund Freud from the philosophy perspective. To discuss this subject, we have with us psychoanalysis consultant, Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste, sir. Sir, what makes the subject Sigmund Freud and Indian spirituality so important? You need to unmute. You need to unmute, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Both Indian spirituality and Sigmund Freud are very, very important elements. Both of them are edifices, almost celestial edifices in their own right. Sigmund Freud, if we look at the Western civilization, will be among the top 5 or top 10 people who have intellectually shaped the Western civilization and thereby human civilization. I can think of Aristotle, Plato, uh, Immanuel Kant, Sigmund Freud, and Einstein as being among the top 5 shapers of the Western civilization and through that the Indian civilization. I mean the human civilization, sorry. Freud is more than a psychotherapist or a psychologist. Somebody rightly said he is almost like an atmosphere of opinion. Freud's work is so fundamental to the working of the human mind that in almost 75% of humanities and social sciences, regardless of which subject are we talking about, if we start from any point and go deep enough, we go back to the working of the human mind where Sigmund Freud has something important to say. So he has permeated across disciplines like literature, film analysis, psychology, of course, philosophy, economics, management. He has permeated across a variety of disciplines, and therefore his work is an edifice into itself. The second part is Indian spirituality, which is even a larger edifice and a more eternal edifice than what Freud's edifice is. And this is a ageless tradition, a arcade which is ageless, which has everything inside of it. Much of what Freud said, much of what Freud did not say. And today, as people are getting more and more interested in Indian spirituality, as we draw into a unique era of the closure of modernity, which in a way was contesting the whole of Indian spirituality, we are coming into an era where Indian spirituality is gaining attention from psychiatrists, from psychotherapists, from health experts, from, of course, theologians. Of course, it was always of interest to those in mysticism and philosophy. And the important point about both of them is that both of them are connected to individual and public well-being. And both of them have at the center of their focus self-knowing and self-transformation. With this kind of a background, and with the era of holistic healing emerging, where people are using the classical Freudian psychoanalysis, other schools of psychoanalysis, and also Eastern traditions and tools of Indian spirituality to heal themselves. When all of this is coming together at the level of philosophy, at the level of science, at the level of healing and well-being, and slowly it might even go into public policy and social reorganization and cultural recasting of the world. With that kind of thing in the background and in the view of the present times, our requirements and what we are looking forward to in future, all this makes both these edifices very important, and the relationship between them also equally important, because through this compare contrast synthesize kind of exercise, we will be enriching both of the edifices to our own benefit.
So, how exactly can you compare Indian spirituality and Sigmund Freud on the point, I mean, philosophically speaking?
Uh, on the point of philosophy, and as you rightly said, we can compare the both on many points. On the point of philosophy, science, concepts, healing techniques, the goal of life, the origin of life, we can compare them on many counts. But to start off our discussion on the point of philosophy, uh, Freud, philosophically speaking, is a believer in materialism, and also, without saying it specifically, a proponent of pessimism. So he philosophically is in a strange situation of a pessimistic materialism. So Freud has no place in his worldview for soul, God, reincarnation, divine origin of anything, or uh, a glorious purpose of anything on earth. And Freud was very pessimistic with regard to man and his human condition on earth. He did not see any grand design or grand project behind the human enterprise. Contrast this with Indian spirituality. Right? So Freud is one person who has constituted an edifice of ideas and discoveries. Indian spirituality is not a person. It is a name that we give to a tradition where thousands of people have contributed their ideas. So obviously we are saying work of one person versus the work of maybe thousands or millions of people. And obviously Indian spirituality therefore is going to be a greater arcade than the arcade of Freud. That goes without saying, because we are putting a person against a huge tradition. Okay. Now, therefore, Freud is a pessimist and a materialist, whereas uh, in Indian spirituality, you find philosophies of all time. You find materialism, you find idealism, you find theism, you find atheism, you find hedonism, you find agnosticism. Okay? So, Freud's philosophy definitely is found in Indian spirituality, but obviously all the schools in Indian spirituality, all the schools of philosophy cannot be found in Freud. Okay? Because we are talking of one person and one belief versus millions of people and their beliefs. So what Freud says philosophically is already there in Indian spirituality, but all that is there in Indian spirituality naturally cannot be there in Freud, because we are talking of many beliefs versus one person. Very importantly, in terms of the ancestry, Freud is not the first, philosophically speaking, to be a pessimist materialist. There were many people before him philosophically in the Western world also who were pessimists. Take for example, Schopenhauer was one. And there were many who were sort of semi-pessimists, the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius and people of his group. So there are many people who were sort of quarter pessimists, semi-pessimists or full pessimists. And of course, there are many people who are materialists. So Freud was preceded by many in the Western tradition in terms of materialism and pessimism. And in Indian tradition, even before the Western philosophers were materialists, uh, we had people like Sankhya, people like Charvaka, who were Indian materialists, who did not believe in the concept of a divine creation. And later on, it was also succeeded by Buddha and Mahavir, who were also not proponents of a creator behind creation. But their atheism was a strange kind of atheism because it was not pure materialism of Sigmund Freud or the Western materialists. Because in the Western materialistic tradition, we don't have the concept of soul and the evolution of the soul. Whereas in the Indian tradition, Indian spiritual tradition, we had. So even while Mahavir and Buddha would not accept the existence of God, they would definitely accept the existence of the evolution of the soul and thereby a goal of mukti or nirvana. So this is how the two compare, that what Freud said was already there in Indian spirituality. And there were also many shades in Indian spirituality where people would believe in materialism, but not necessarily Freud's pessimism. If you look at Buddha and Freud, there is a strange, very good comparison, very interesting comparison. Buddha and Freud both are atheists. Neither believes in the existence of God. Both of them also appear to be almost pessimists. So Buddha could never think that we could create a world where everyone was happy, or a person can be happy in this world. So the whole process was how to attain nirvana and get free from this world. But this world was a gone case beyond repair. You can't do anything to this world. Okay? So there was a pessimism with respect to the human condition and the very nature of this world and the possibility of this world. On those points, both of them are together. But in terms of what is human potential and what is the goal possible, both of them are different. Freud would condemn man to his condition as it is by and large, whereas Buddha would see the possibility of nirvana and freedom. So this is how we can look at some of the uh, comparative points between on the point of philosophy between what Sigmund Freud said and what we find in Indian philosophy or Indian spirituality rather.
So, sir, philosophically speaking, whatever Freud said, was everything present in Indian philosophy, or was the reverse also true?
What Freud said was definitely present in Indian spirituality, but all that was present in Indian spirituality was not said by Freud. So the reverse is not true. And naturally, because as I said, we are looking at one person versus work of hundreds of people. So there are many shades. For example, if we just look at Indian spirituality, we look at two broad areas of materialism and idealism. So Freud was only into materialism, so the whole of the idealism is out. Within materialism, Freud was into a sort of balancing act, right, where he would not go into denial of pleasure and he would not go into the excess of pleasure. Whereas in the Indian spiritual tradition, you will find all the three. The Vedic tradition is a balanced tradition. The Tantric tradition is a excess tradition. And the Sannyasi tradition is a scarcity tradition, denial tradition. Right? So what Freud said definitely is in Indian spirituality, but all that is there is not in Freud, not only not in Freud, not even in the whole of psychoanalysis. Because if you look at the heterogeneity, the richness, and the population of ideas in the Indian spiritual tradition, it is much larger and much wider, at times much deeper than all that we see present in psychoanalysis.
So, sir, who are the philosophical ancestors of Sigmund Freud in Indian spiritual tradition? I mean, if we can say, of course, not ancestors in literal terms, but
Yeah, yeah.
kind of. Yeah.
Uh, in the Indian tradition, we have many people who were materialists. If you look at many followers of Sankhya, if you look at uh, Charvaka and his tradition, if we look at many of the Buddhist traditions of Nagarjuna and other people, if we look at many of the Jain traditions, there are many people you will find who are materialists, right? Of different sorts. Some of them are pure materialists, right? Uh, some of them are uh, materialists, but believing partly in spiritual evolution, so that makes them sort of a hybrid between materialism and idealism. Then there are those who believe in hedonistic materialism like Charvaka. There are some who are Stoics. Then there are some who are materialists, but they combine the tantric alchemy and Ayurveda and yoga with their material philosophy. So if we look at this whole schools, many of the followers of Sankhya, many of the followers of Charvaka, many of the followers of other atomists and materialists in the Indian tradition, if we look at Nagarjuna, if we look at many of the uh, uh, tantrics who were in Tibet or who were in certain places in India, they preceded Freud by centuries and they were materialists, but materialists of different shades. Some were exactly like Freud, materialists and pessimists. Some were just pure materialists, some were materialists and optimists, some were hedonists and materialists, some were sort of hybrid between materialism and spiritualism, like you can say Buddha and Mahavir, who in one sense appear like materialists, but in another sense believe in the evolution of the soul. So this, we can see that in the East we have a tradition thousands of years before Freud who were believing and developing the ideas, philosophically speaking, which Freud adopted in his life, because these were not the ideas when it comes to philosophy. Freud's ideas were not originally his ideas. They were the ideas that he adopted by his study of philosophy. And the ideas that he adopted were essentially what he read from Western philosophers. So Freud was preceded by Western philosophers and before that Eastern philosophers in terms of his philosophical beliefs.
So when you say materialistic, what exactly from a Freud's point of view would you mean? And how would it translate in Indian spirituality?
When we look at a school in psychoanalysis, there are the school can be divided into three parts. One is the philosophy of the school, right? Then you have the main concepts and the model of the mind, and then you have pathogenesis and healing. Okay? So when Freud says materialism, what he means is that there is no room for the concept of soul, rebirth, or God. So for Freud, the what we call the mind or consciousness is something which is only an epiphenomena which arises because of reactions in matter. So for him, the evolution and the animal origin of man is a given. That from matter came life, from life came mind. Right? In a primitive way in mammals, and from that came the human species with a mind of its own. And in Freudian psychoanalysis, we are looking at that mind. So the mammalian base of our nature, the animalistic base of our nature is a given. Now that philosophical belief translates into his concepts. For example, if you ask him, are we born with this noble instinct for knowledge? He would say, No, we are born with scopophilia, right? The pleasure of seeing, and the scopophilia gets sublimated into curiosity, which is the search for knowledge. So anything noble is not something we are born with. We are born with only animalistic tendencies, and all the good that you see in man is a sublimation of those animalistic tendencies because of his materialism. Because the moment you go into materialism, right, it is very natural to move in this way. But if you look at a tantric model of the mind, you would say that knowledge also, along with survival, power, love, uh, sexuality, creativity, art, spirituality, mysticism, all these are fundamental to human nature in equal strength. So they will not say that something animalistic was sublimated into search for knowledge. They will say search for knowledge is as fundamental as the will to survive or will to procreate or the will to power. So this is how Freud's view, Freud's philosophy of materialism starts influencing his concepts, right? That he cannot create a model of the mind where something noble or good in human nature is something we are born with. Freud's model of the mind always has to be we are born with something difficult which is sublimated into something noble. And that comes essentially out of the material, and through material, the animal evolution of man. That is one. Takes a next concept of death instinct. The concept of death instinct is also rooted in Freud's materialism, where there is a tendency to go back to matter and seize the ceaseless movements of life forward and go back to that state of rest and inertia. So that also is based essentially on materialism. If Freud was an idealist, the return would not essentially end at the level of inertia and material. One could postulate a consciousness behind that material, or one could postulate a consciousness anchor above the mind in a supernormal range. But the moment you say you are believing in materialism of the traditional variety, right, the death instinct will naturally lead you to where Freud reached. So this is how Freud's philosophical beliefs, right, shaped his thinking. You can also take the third example of how he viewed the future of man in his essay on uh, the discontents of human civilization, where he puts a very pessimistic and bleak picture. In his view, he says the destructive and sadistic forces of human nature cannot be tamed completely by the good forces of love and compassion. And that is at the root of all our troubles. So this again is a pessimistic reading, which is born out of reading history as it is, without looking at a much grander time scale and without looking at the paranormal, the mystical, and the spiritual areas of human life. So these are some of the ways you can see how the philosophical beliefs of Freud get into the way he develops his concepts.
Well, thank you, Mr. Vaidya, for sharing your knowledge with us. We have discussed today subject of Indian spirituality and Sigmund Freud from the philosophy perspective. In our next video, we shall discuss the same subject from the point of science, philosophy, and psychotherapy. Do watch our subsequent videos and write to us at hvindia@gmail.com. Namaste.
Namaste.